Christmas Eve miracle. The snow fell softly on the cobblestone streets of downtown Denver, each flake dancing in the warm glow of Christmas lights that adorned the historic brownstones. David Matthews pulled his black wool coat tighter as he walked, hand in hand with his 8-year-old daughter, Emma. Her bright red winter coat stood out like a cheerful beacon against the winter evening, and her excited chatter about Santa's arrival filled the quiet air. David was a successful tech entrepreneur who had built his company from nothing into a multi-million-dollar empire. But despite all his achievements, the past 2 years had been the hardest of his life. His wife Sarah had passed away from cancer, leaving him to raise Emma alone. Tonight, Christmas Eve, felt especially heavy. This was their first Christmas without Sarah, and David was struggling to find the holiday magic that his daughter deserved. "Daddy, look at all the pretty lights," Emma said, pointing to the twinkling decorations that wrapped around the iron railings of the brownstone apartments. Her breath formed small clouds in the cold air as she spoke. "They're beautiful, sweetheart," David replied, though his voice carried the weight of his grief. He had tried his best to make this Christmas special for Emma, buying her every toy she had mentioned and planning elaborate celebrations. Yet something felt missing. The joy that Sarah had always brought to their holidays seemed impossible to recreate. As they walked past a row of elegant townhouses, Emma suddenly stopped. "Daddy, what's that lady doing?" David looked ahead and saw a young woman crouched beside a large green dumpster. She wore a tattered gray hoodie with patches sewn onto the sleeves, and her long blonde hair fell around her face as she carefully searched through the garbage. Her dress, once probably beautiful, now hung in torn layers beneath her worn jacket. David's first instinct was to guide Emma away from the scene. In his world of boardrooms and luxury, homeless people were a distant reality he rarely encountered directly, but something about the woman's gentle movements stopped him. She wasn't frantically digging or making noise. Instead, she handled each item with care, as if she was looking for something specific. "Stay close to me, Emma," David whispered, but his daughter had already started walking toward the woman. "Excuse me," Emma called out in her clear, innocent voice. "Are you okay?" The woman looked up, startled. Her face was young, probably in her late 20s, with kind green eyes that held both sadness and dignity. She quickly closed the dumpster lid and stepped back. "Oh, I'm sorry," the woman said softly. "I didn't mean to bother anyone. I was just looking for ... She paused, glancing at Emma's expectant face, then at David, who had now caught up to them. "Looking for what?" Emma asked with genuine curiosity, showing no fear or judgment that adults might have displayed. The woman hesitated, then knelt down to Emma's eye level. "I was looking for wrapping paper," she admitted quietly. "Tomorrow is Christmas, and I have something special I want to wrap for someone important to me." David felt his chest tighten. Here was someone with so little, yet still thinking of giving gifts to others. "What do you need to wrap?" he found himself asking. The woman reached into her jacket and carefully pulled out a small hand-carved wooden angel. The craftsmanship was exquisite, with delicate wings and a serene expression that seemed to glow even in the dim streetlight. "I made this for my little sister," she explained, her voice barely above a whisper. "She's in foster care across town. I haven't been able to see her much since our parents died in a car accident last year, but I wanted her to have something beautiful for Christmas, something that shows her she's still loved." Emma's eyes grew wide with wonder as she looked at the angel. "You made this. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." The woman smiled for the first time since they had approached her. "Thank you, sweetie. I used to help my dad in his woodworking shop before everything changed. I've been living in shelters and trying to get back on my feet, but it's been hard to find steady work." David stood quietly, watching the interaction between his daughter and this stranger. Something profound was happening in this moment. Emma, with her pure heart, had seen past appearances to recognize another human being in need. And this woman, despite having lost everything, was still focused on showing love to her sister. "What's your name?" Emma asked. "I'm Rebecca," the woman replied. "And you are?" "I'm Emma, and this is my daddy, David. We live in that big building over there." Emma pointed to the luxury high-rise a few blocks away. "My daddy has lots of money, but we're still sad because Mummy went to heaven." David felt his cheeks flush with embarrassment at his daughter's directness, but Rebecca's expression only grew more compassionate. "I'm sorry about your mummy," Rebecca said gently. "That must make Christmas very difficult." "It does," Emma nodded seriously. "Daddy tries to make it fun, but it doesn't feel the same without Mummy's magic." Rebecca looked up at David with understanding eyes. "Grief is hard, especially during the holidays. But you know what I've learned? Sometimes the magic we're looking for comes from helping others find their own magic." David felt something shift inside him as he looked at Rebecca and then at his daughter. Here was a woman who had every reason to be bitter and angry at the world, yet she spoke of creating magic for others. "Rebecca," David said slowly, "would you like to come have Christmas Eve dinner with us? And perhaps afterwards, we could go visit your sister together. I'm sure we can find some proper wrapping paper, and maybe a few more gifts to go along with that beautiful angel." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "I couldn't possibly impose on your family time." "Please say yes," Emma interrupted, taking Rebecca's hand. Mommy always said that Christmas magic happens when we share it with others. Maybe that's what we've been missing. David smiled at his daughter's wisdom, 8 years old, and she understood something that had escaped him entirely. Christmas wasn't about expensive gifts or perfect celebrations. It was about human connection, kindness, and love. Emma's right, David said warmly. I think we could all use a little Christmas magic tonight. Rebecca looked back and forth between father and daughter, then nodded slowly. Okay, she whispered. I'd like that very much, as they walked together toward David's building. Emma chattering excitedly about Christmas dinner and meeting Rebecca's sister. David felt something he hadn't experienced in 2 years: peace, joy, hope. Sometimes, he realized, the greatest gifts come disguised as people who need our help. And sometimes, in helping others, we discover exactly what our own hearts have been searching for. The snow continued to fall gently around them, and for the first time since Sarah's passing, Christmas Eve felt truly magical.